I was halfway through my ham sandwich, sitting on the torn-up couch in my duplex, when my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. I figured it was spam and almost ignored it, but something made me swipe anyway. "Mr. Nolan Green?" the voice asked, male, calm, polite, too polite. "This is Greg calling from Western Federal. We're following up about your overdue mortgage account. Your current balance is $527,418, including late fees." I almost laughed. "You've got the wrong guy. I don't own a house." But he kept going like I hadn't said a thing. "We're seeing the mortgage is in your name, located in Westlake Village, California, purchased in April of last year, fixed 30-year loan. I live in a rented duplex in Missouri. This isn't mine." That's when he read my full name, my birthday, my social security number, all of it, perfect. I went cold. The sandwich sat in my lap, forgotten. Quick note. Before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. "Where did you get this information?" I asked, sitting up straighter, heart pounding now. "We can't disclose that without confirming your identity for security purposes," he said. "Would you like us to send the loan documents to your email on file?" I said yes. What else could I say? The call ended, and I just sat there, phone in my hand, screen gone dark. I hadn't even told anyone my credit score because it wasn't something I was proud of. But it was clean. Clean because I'd been careful. I'd done things the boring way, paid on time, avoided debt. Never co-signed a thing for anyone, not even family. And yet somehow, I was on the hook for a house in California. I got up, grabbed a pen and notebook, started writing everything down. The loan number, the bank name, time of call, Greg's extension. My stomach felt hollow. My hands were sweaty. I checked my credit report online. There it was, a huge mortgage under my name, opened 14 months ago. Then it hit me. That was right around the time Derek, my younger brother, started showing off pictures at family barbecues, pool in the backyard, home gym, 3-car garage. He called it his dream home and said he finally got his shot. I remember my mom beaming at him like he'd cured cancer. My dad clapped him on the back like the golden son had done it again. Nobody asked questions. And I hadn't cared enough to dig, until now. I sat there in my crappy little duplex with the busted blinds and the creaky AC, looking around like I was seeing it for the first time. Everything felt smaller, tighter, like the walls were pushing in. This wasn't a screw-up. This wasn't a mistake. This was betrayal. I stood up and went straight to the hallway closet, yanked open the door, and pulled down the old plastic tub where I kept every important paper I'd ever saved. Tax returns, pay stubs, my student loan docs, the lease for this place. Dumped the whole thing out on the living room floor. Started digging like my life depended on it. Because it kinda did. I didn't need a psychic to know where to look. Only one person had ever had that kind of access, and he grew up sleeping across the hall from me. I found the folder I was looking for. Copies of the FAFSA paperwork Mom had helped me fill out back in high school, which I kept for my records. A printout of my old driver's license, even a W-2 from a job I had 10 years ago. All the personal info was right there, just sitting in a box like a buffet for anyone who felt entitled enough to help themselves. I sat on the floor, knees up, heart racing. My eyes burned, not from crying, but from trying to make sense of how far this had gone without me even noticing. Derek. I thought about all the family dinners where he'd show up in new clothes, flashing the latest iPhone, bragging about networking with guys who drove Teslas and throwing around startup terms like he invented Silicon Valley. I told my parents he was living beyond his means. I warned them, flat out. They waved it off. My dad said, "He's young and hungry." My mom always threw back, "He's just ambitious. You should be more supportive." Supportive? Of what? Fraud? I called the bank again. Got transferred around a few times, but finally landed on a woman named Dana who sounded like she didn't have time for BS. "I want every document tied to this mortgage," I said. "Send it to my email. I'm not authorizing anything. I just want to see what's supposedly mine." She didn't argue. 10 minutes later, I got the email. When I opened that PDF, I felt sick. There was the address. Westlake Village, California. 3-bedroom, 3-bath, big fenced yard. The loan balance made my stomach twist. But what really got me was the signature. It looked just enough like mine to pass. Same slanted N. Same weird loop I do on the G. But it wasn't mine. I printed the whole thing out, stapled pages together, labeled them, made a cover sheet, grabbed a clean folder and wrote across the front in Sharpie, "Mortgage fraud." It wasn't just for evidence. It was for me, to see it laid out, piece by piece, to stop telling myself maybe this was a mix-up. I needed facts, not feelings. I went online and ordered a shredder. Then I put a freeze on my credit and pulled the full reports from all 3 bureaus. I highlighted every account I recognized, every hard inquiry, every line of debt. Anything that didn't look right went in the file. By the time I finished, the living room floor was covered in papers, highlighters, and sticky notes. I sat in the middle of it all, exhausted but clear-headed for the first time since the call. This wasn't some small mistake. This was methodical, intentional, personal, and I wasn't going to let it slide. I picked up the folder, walked it to my desk, and set it down next to my laptop. Next step, Sunday dinner. I drove to my parents' place with the folder in my passenger seat, seatbelted in like it was a living thing. I didn't walk in angry. I didn't come to blow up the house. I just wanted to look them in the eye and ask the question. Mom opened the door and smiled like always. "Hey, sweetheart, you look tired. You working too hard?" I gave her a quick hug. "Just been dealing with some stuff." Dad barely looked up from the couch. "Dinner's almost ready. Derek's here too. He brought some of that IPA crap you hate." I stepped into the living room, and there he was. Derek, spread out on the sectional like he owned the place. New smartwatch on his wrist, designer sneakers kicked halfway off, watching some YouTube video on his phone with the sound all the way up. "Yo, Noel," he said without even looking up. "You ever deal with HOA fines? They're such a scam. Got dinged $200 because my trash bins were out an hour early." I said nothing. Just watched him, watched how at home he looked, how comfortable he was. Like the guy who committed a felony in my name had no reason to sweat. Dinner was the usual: baked chicken, green beans, mashed potatoes. I sat across from Derek. Mom chatted about a new neighbor. Dad threw out commentary on the football game playing in the background. It was like any other Sunday. I waited until we were halfway through the meal. Everyone's plates were full, mouths chewing. And then I said it. "Anyone know why my name's on a $527,000 mortgage?" The silence hit instantly. No chewing, no blinking, no movement. Mom was the first to speak. She set her fork down gently. "Honey, let's not ruin dinner." "I'm serious," I said. "Because I just got a call from a bank in California. Apparently I own a house I've never seen." Dad kept his eyes on his plate. Derek shifted back in his chair and scratched the back of his neck. "It's just family helping family," Mom finally said, her voice tight. "You had the credit, Derek didn't." Derek spoke up like I'd asked him about the weather. "I was gonna tell you, man. I just needed a leg up. It's not like it's hurting you." I laughed. Couldn't help it, short and sharp. "Not hurting me? My name's on $500,000 of debt." "You weren't using it," he shot back. "You rent. You've got no loans. They wouldn't have approved me on my own. So you stole my identity instead?" That made Mom flinch. "He didn't steal anything. It was just paperwork, and we thought you'd understand once everything's settled." "You forged my signature," I said, turning to Derek. "You used my social. That's not family. That's fraud." He threw his napkin down. "I didn't steal anything. I used something you weren't even using. You want me to be homeless now? You want my credit destroyed?" "It should be," I said. "You earned it." Dad finally spoke up, low and gruff. "All right, that's enough at the table. We can talk later." "No," I said, pushing my plate away. "We're talking now. I've already pulled my credit reports, filed a record with the bank, and started a file. You knew what you were doing, all of you." "You're being dramatic," Mom snapped. "We raised you better than to turn on your brother." I stood up. "No, you raised me to clean up after him. That's over." I picked up my folder and walked it back to the car. Didn't run, didn't yell. But they knew. I walked out of their house carrying that folder like a weapon. No one followed me to the door. They just sat there, staring, like I'd ruined some sacred family ritual. I didn't slam the door. I didn't say goodbye. I just walked to my car, opened the door, and slid behind the wheel. The night air smelled like cut grass and charcoal from some neighbor's grill. My hands were steady on the steering wheel. My chest felt tight, but not from panic. It was control. Finally, I started the engine and smiled. Not a happy smile, a war smile. They thought I'd storm out and cool off. They thought I'd come crawling back, like always. Not this time. When I got home, the duplex was dark and quiet. I flicked on the kitchen light and set the folder on the table, took off my jacket, rolled up my sleeves, opened my laptop. I started searching mortgage fraud and identity theft like a man cramming for an exam. Legal blogs, news stories, Federal Trade Commission guidelines. My eyes blurred from scrolling, but I kept going. Every click, every new page I read, something in me hardened. I grabbed a yellow pad and started jotting down what I needed. Credit freeze, police report, bank contact. I drew arrows, underlined words. It was the first time in a long time I'd seen my own handwriting look sharp and clean. I opened a new tab and searched for real estate lawyer near me. There were dozens of names. I read reviews like my life depended on it. One name kept popping up. Patrick Gallagher, older guy, straight shooter. Client said he didn't waste time. I bookmarked his number. It was 2 a.m. by the time I leaned back in my chair. The room was quiet except for the hum of the fridge. Papers were everywhere. Sticky notes on the counter, highlighted printouts on the floor, my laptop glowing like a command center. I wasn't exhausted. I was awake in a way I hadn't been in years. I picked up my phone and dialed the number from his website. Voicemail. "Hi, this is Nolan Green," I said after the beep. "I need to set up an appointment about a fraudulent mortgage in my name. Call me back anytime. I'll be ready." I hung up. Then I opened my credit report again, this time slower, line by line, looking for any other surprises. Student loans, mine. Credit card, mine. No other big items. Good. One war at a time. I went to the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face, and stared at myself in the mirror. Same guy, same tired eyes. But the expression was different. I wasn't going to beg for respect anymore. I dried my hands, walked back to the kitchen, and started putting my papers into neat piles. One for the bank, one for the police, one for the lawyer. The folder on the table was fat now, like it had muscle. They wanted a doormat. I was about to show them steel. I snapped the folder shut and slid it into my bag. Tomorrow, I'd call Gallagher's office again. The next morning, Gallagher's assistant called me back just after 9, said he had a slot open that afternoon, and told me to bring everything I had. I was already dressed when the call came through. Bag packed, folder ready. I met him at a coffee shop down the street from the county courthouse. Small place. Smelled like burnt espresso and old wood. Gallagher was already at a corner table. Gray hair, thick glasses, button-down shirt with rolled sleeves. Looked more like a retired mechanic than a lawyer. "You Nolan?" he asked when I walked in. "Yeah." I held out my hand. He shook it. Firm grip. No smile. Just got right to it. "Let's see what we're dealing with." I sat down, opened the folder, and started laying it all out. Printouts, credit reports, loan documents, screenshots of my email, everything. He barely blinked, just flipped through page after page like he'd done this 1,000 times. "Signature's close," he muttered, tapping the mortgage doc. "But not yours." "Nope." He nodded once, flipped another page. "They used your SSN, your credit. You didn't consent. That's fraud. Bank's gonna want to protect itself, so they'll cooperate. You file a police report, send the bank a formal dispute, freeze your credit, and we start the investigation." "Do I need to press charges?" "That's up to you," he said. "But if you want to wipe this from your record, you need a paper trail. Civil case is optional, but if you want to hit back, financially I mean, you've got grounds." He leaned back, crossed his arms. "This kind of thing wrecks people. Not just the money, it's the trust, the betrayal." I didn't say anything, didn't have to. He opened his laptop. "We'll draft a letter to the bank right now. Clear, direct, no emotion. You're a victim of identity theft, and you dispute the mortgage in full." We spent the next hour working through it together. He read everything out loud before typing it, asked sharp questions, took notes, didn't treat me like I was stupid or slow. When we finished the draft, he turned the screen toward me. "You good with this?" I read every line. "Yeah, send it." He hit the button. Next, we filed the police report. He helped me phrase it the right way, factual, not dramatic. Just the facts. When I found out, what I discovered, who had access. Once that was done, he leaned forward again. "You freeze your credit yet?" "I did it last night." "Good. Then you're ahead of most. You're not doing this out of revenge, by the way. You're protecting yourself. That matters." I nodded. By the time we wrapped up, I wasn't slouched in the chair anymore. I was sitting straight. My voice had more weight behind it. Walking out of that coffee shop, I didn't feel like a guy getting screwed over. I felt like a man who'd finally woken the hell up. I stepped out into the street, folder in hand, and headed straight to the post office to send the certified letters. I left the post office with the tracking receipt folded in my pocket and a tightness in my chest that felt more like fuel than fear. Everything was officially in motion. The letter to the bank, the police report, Gallagher's guidance. No more theory, no more sitting in the dark. That was Monday. By the next Sunday, I heard the knock. I looked through the peephole and saw my mother on the front step. No makeup, hair pinned back sloppily, eyes sunken like she hadn't slept. She was holding her purse against her chest like a shield. I opened the door halfway. "Mom," she blinked, stepped forward like she was going to hug me. I didn't move. "You didn't have to go this far," she said. "You didn't have to blow up the whole family over some paperwork." "It wasn't paperwork. It was identity theft." Her mouth tightened. "You're taking this too personally. Derek's going to lose the house, Nolan. The bank's already contacted him." "Good." She gasped like I'd slapped her. "How can you say that? He's your brother." I kept my voice even. "Family asks, they don't forge your name and screw your credit. He needed help. So he stole it, and you backed him. Don't stand on my porch and pretend I'm the one who crossed the line." Her voice cracked. "We were trying to give him a shot. At my expense." She started crying. Real tears, messy ones. But I'd seen those before. That didn't mean she understood what she'd done. "I just want us to fix this," she whispered. I nodded slowly. "So do I. That's why I called a lawyer." She opened her mouth to say something else, but I was already done. I stepped back, hand on the door. "You chose your side, and you made me choose mine." Then I closed the door. Didn't slam it, just shut it like I was hanging up the phone. I leaned against it for a second, breathing through the adrenaline. The hallway was silent again. An hour later, Derek started calling. Voicemail after voicemail. First one was just yelling. No hello, just him swearing and blaming me. The second one was quieter, but no less pathetic. "You're ruining my life, bro." "Over what? Some paper? Some pride?" Then a string of short ones. "You better fix this." "You think this makes you better than us?" "Grow the hell up, man." I didn't answer. Not once. I didn't even delete them. I saved them to my hard drive, labeled the folder, voicemails, evidence. Every message he left proved my point. Every angry word made me more certain I was doing the right thing. By the end of the week, my phone had gone quiet. No more calls, no texts, just silence. And for the first time in my adult life, that silence felt like control. I walked into my kitchen, made coffee, and sat at the table with the folder Gallagher helped me build. Next step was waiting on the bank, so I waited, with my head up and my phone face down. The letter from the bank came in a plain white envelope. I opened it standing over the kitchen sink with a cup of cold coffee in my hand. They were officially placing the loan under investigation and halting all payments and interest while they reviewed the fraud claim. They also confirmed receipt of my police report and supporting documents. I exhaled hard. Not relief, not celebration, just progress. After that, things got quiet. No calls, no texts, not even a birthday message. My phone stayed dry through the day and dark at night. I'd check it sometimes out of habit, thinking maybe someone would break. They didn't. At first, it stung. I'm not gonna lie. It was the kind of silence that echoed, the kind that crept into your chest when you realized the people you thought loved you were only there when you let them take something. But eventually, the ache got boring, and once it stopped mattering, my days started changing. I got up earlier, started walking before work. Not long, just 30 minutes around the neighborhood. It cleared my head and gave me something solid to start with. I signed up for a woodworking class at the community center. Tuesday nights, 2 hours, nothing fancy. Mostly retirees and guys with quiet hands. First project was a cutting board. Mine was crooked and I didn't care. I cooked more. Learned how to make decent chili. Started buying fresh stuff instead of frozen dinners. Stopped eating on the couch. Ate at the table, like a grown man. I bought myself new boots, not because I needed them, but because I wanted them. The old pair had holes. These were leather. Fit like they meant something. Gallagher kept me updated every other week. Said the case was moving forward, slow but steady. The bank was cooperating. The investigation was open. No red flags so far. Every form I filled out was like pulling bricks off my chest, one at a time, no shortcuts. I took the extra copies of all the paperwork and filed them in a locked cabinet I bought from Home Depot. Never thought I'd care about filing cabinets, but now it felt like armor. I vacuumed more. I dusted. I opened the windows when it wasn't too humid, cleaned the ceiling fan, changed out light bulbs. The place started feeling different, not bigger, but more mine. Sometimes I'd catch myself in the mirror before bed, brushing my teeth or combing my hair, and I looked the same. But I wasn't. I didn't feel like a victim. I didn't feel like a backup plan. I felt like a man who'd finally stopped bleeding and learned how to patch his own holes. And not one of them, not Derek, not Mom, not Dad, was gonna take that from me again. I checked my email before bed. Nothing new from Gallagher, nothing from the bank. But I slept fine anyway. I got back from a weekend trip late Sunday afternoon, bag slung over my shoulder, keys in hand, sunglasses still on. The sun was dipping low, and I just wanted a hot shower and something cold to drink. But there they were, standing at the base of the stairs, Mom, Dad, and Derek, all three of them. They looked smaller than I remembered, worn out, like the air had finally been let out of the perfect family balloon. Mom's eyes were puffy. Dad's shirt was wrinkled, tucked in, crooked. Derek looked like he hadn't shaved in days. He had a backpack at his feet and his hands jammed in his hoodie pockets. Nobody said anything for a second. They just stared at me like I was the last person on earth who could save them. Derek spoke first. "Look, man, the house is gone. The bank took it. They wrecked my credit. I can't rent anywhere decent." I didn't respond. He stepped forward. "Just for a few months, all right, till I get back on my feet." I shook my head once. Not a chance. Mom moved in next. "Nolan, please, we made a mistake. We just wanted to help him get started." "You mean you wanted to use me and not deal with the fallout?" "We were wrong," she said, voice cracking. "But you've made your point." Dad finally spoke. "It's family. You don't turn your back." I looked at him hard. "No, you don't forge your son's name and throw him to the wolves." They had no answer for that. The wind kicked up a little. Leaves scraped across the sidewalk. I stood there for a second, bag still over my shoulder, feeling the weight of every year I spent trying to be the good son, the quiet one, the fixer. Then I let it go. "I hope someday you understand what you really did." That's all I said. I stepped past them without another word. No yelling, no speech. I walked up the steps, one at a time, until I reached my door, unlocked it, walked inside, dropped my bag. The place smelled clean. Quiet. I stood there, letting the silence settle around me like armor. No guilt, no noise, no weight that wasn't mine. And for the first time in my life, that silence, it belonged to me.